Thank you so much. Hope you all enjoyed the refreshments and had a chance to speak to each other and meet people who may be helpful in your respective careers. We really enjoyed that first panel, and we're excited to present to you the second panel today, the international export of sports between Spain and the United States. We have another fantastic group of speakers here today, so happy to present them to you, beginning with Carla Cabrera, the Public Diplomacy Officer at the Embassy of Spain, who will be moderating today. We also have Brendon Plack, the Senior Vice President of Public Policy and Government Affairs at the National Football League, and Matteo Zuretti, Chief Player Experience Officer at the National Basketball Players Association. We have a third speaker coming on his way. He'll be here shortly, Ibrahim Sagna. He is the Executive Chairman of Silverbacks Holdings and the owner of the Cape Town Tigers, a basketball team in South Africa, part of the NBPA's Basketball Africa League. So thank you so much, and we will get started.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today, and thank you for joining us for this Sports Diplomacy Conference, the first one that the Embassy of Spain is organizing with Jetr Global. Thank you for joining us today in this panel as well, and thank you, of course, both of you, Brendon and Matteo, for being here and sharing your expertise with us. First of all, when we hear about international exports, a lot of times people think about produce, raw materials, technology, but hardly ever we think about ideas being exported or values being exported or sports being exported. And in this case, between Spain and the United States, there has been a long shared history of military, economic, political issues, but recently also sports relationship. We have seen a lot of Spanish athletes and coaches coming to the United States. We have also seen US leagues and athletes going to Europe and to Spain, not just to play, but also owning teams and bringing their expertise. And some of the examples that we have seen in the United States of Spanish athletes are the renowned former NBA player Pau Gasol, the soccer player Jordi Alba, who currently plays in the Inter Miami, and of course the Washington Spirit head coach Jonathan Giraldez, who will be joining us today for panel 4. So stay till the end. First of all, I would like to talk about the American sports presence in Spain. And I would like to bring up the NFL and its international series. We have already seen NFL games in Sao Paulo in Brazil and London in the UK in this last international series season. And we know that there's an upcoming game schedule to happen in Madrid in 2025. So Brendon, I would like to ask you, in the name of the NFL, why did you choose Spain as one of your destinations for the NFL International Series of 2025? And what are the challenges and expectations of bringing an NFL season game to the Santiago Bernabeu, which is the home of Real Madrid?
Yes. Well, thank you, Carla. Thank you for the question, and thanks to Jetr Global and the Spanish Embassy for hosting us today. We're excited to be here, and we're excited to be headed to Madrid for an international game next season. We've been talking with the Spanish government now for a couple of years, and a big thanks to the embassy's help and the Council of High Sports, High Council of Sports, I should say, for their help in making this game a reality, and the city of Madrid for making this game a reality. So when you think of Spain and you think of Madrid, it's a phenomenal sports country, right? They've got fans, they've got soccer fans primarily, very avid fans across the entire landscape, and we're excited about that. But what you might not know is they've got 13 million NFL fans, so we're excited to be bringing the game there. We're excited to be connecting with those fans in a real way. We're excited about a long-term partnership with Madrid. We're excited about our partnership with Real Madrid, which is a premier organization, right, in international sports. We're excited to be partnering with them to make this game a success, and we're excited about the stadium, right? The thing you need in any international city to play a successful NFL football game is a premier stadium, and Santiago Bernabeu is amazing. The renovations
Absolutely.
have been incredible. I know it's been a long process, 4 or 5 years to complete the renovations, but it really is. It's a world-class facility. We're excited to be there. In terms of challenges, I don't think there will be too many. Whenever we're coming to a new country, a new city, a new stadium, there are always logistics and operational challenges. Those are par for the course, if you would. But we don't expect that to be the case in Madrid. The expectations are much higher than any challenges we'll face, I'm sure. And we're excited to be playing a game there next season. So thanks, Carla, for the question, and we're really looking forward to next season.
Thank you, Brendon. I would also like to consider the presence of Spanish players in the NBA, right? We know that that has been a highlight between the U.S.-Spain sports relationship. And I mentioned Pau Gasol, but we also have Marc Gasol, Ricky Rubio, and many more players that are still playing today. Matteo, representing the National Basketball Players Association, I would like to ask you, how have these athletes strengthened the connection between the NBA and the NBPA with Spain? And we've talked about this before, so I would love to hear from you a little bit more about the sanctuary.
Thank you, Carla. Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Excited to be here. Thanks to the embassy and Jetr for hosting us. Incredible group of Spaniards. Really revolutionized, I think, not only the relationship between the two countries, but really what it means to be becoming a global league. In this case, for the NBA. Pau, of course, has led the charge. Champion, all-star, incredible mind and philanthropist. But there's literally a golden generation that have been also so successful at the international level, at the FIBA level, among the national team. And to the point that the league, right, the NBA, opened an office in Madrid that is still there, and several times brought their preseason games to Spain, just like the NFL is about to do. That's going to be a regular season game, right?
It's a regular season game.
Exactly. That's an interesting proposition, and those guys really, I think, build the bridge among the two countries. Pau has been on our. Hey, Ibrahim, how are you? Pau has been on our board as one of our vice presidents and really informed our international strategy in terms of supporting international players in being that bridge. See, and I'm sure this is the same across every country. When one of your heroes is across the ocean and is performing at the highest level in a professional league, you cheer for him or her, but at the same time, you cannot really touch him or touch her, you don't experience it live. And so that has been, I think, the power of these athletes to really build a bridge between the fan base back home and the amazing achievements that they were having in the States. One of these players, that is actually José Manuel Calderón, another member of that Generación Dorada for Spain. In his transition outside of his playing days, actually stopped at NBPA for a couple of years and really supported us, and was the one who introduced us to this pretty magical place that is in Andalusia, not far from Marbella, between Marbella and Malaga, and where there is this amazing facility. 2 courts that we privatized, and we did it for 3 years, overlooking the Mediterranean seas. If you guys Google it, the sanctuary in NBPA, you will find it. And this location really gave us an inspiration in providing our players with a new concept, which was a performance retreat. So it's not a game. It's not one of the sports properties, a team or a league actually traveling and to develop the game, but actually a tool to develop the individuals, the players, the humans, right? Not only as athletes working out in that location, but as global citizens. We love for our players to become more educated global citizens. Everybody tells them there's a great global opportunity, but what do you really need to capitalize on it? There's a lot of soft skills, and that's when we ask them, travel with purpose. Travel with purpose, and you can travel with purpose under a flag of our organization, and that is where we actually discovered all the beauty, all the food, all the warm welcoming of Andalusia and of Spain in this experience that we held in Malaga for the last 3 years.
Thank you very much, Matteo. I have heard from both Brendon and Matteo that indeed Spain is being a hub for all the sports exchanges, with the NFL choosing Madrid as the season game of the international series, and also NBPA choosing Andalusia as location for the sanctuary for the performance retreat. And this indeed doesn't come only with fans and appreciation, but it also has an economic impact. So, Ibrahim, welcome to the panel. Thank you for coming. I would like to take into account the private perspective of the international exports of sports between Spain and the United States. So, Ibrahim, as a private equity investor, I would like to ask you, what role has the economic value played in the proliferation of these local leagues beyond their home countries?
Okay. Thank you very much, and sorry for coming in late while you guys were having the panel. I visited your 3 different embassies, the main one, the defense one, and this one. So sorry for having a bit of touristic tour while people were discussing businesses. So my name is Ibrahim Sagna. I'm coming from Egypt, Cairo. I'm originally from Senegal. I run a company called Silverbacks Holdings. We are private equity investors in the territories of sports, technology, and entertainment. Our basic thesis is that there is absurd adjacencies between technology, entertainment, and media. And as you may have all observed, there is greater amount of capital from the private equity industry chasing these assets. And it's not accidental. So there's basically 3 core characteristics in terms of data that's been observed by people from our industry, is that if you take every single industry that exists on Earth, there's only 3 that over 70 to 80 years have consistently grown over 6%. And those are education, healthcare, and sports. There's no industry that over a 60-year period has sustained that consistent level. Second data point is when you look at the entire S&P, the entire NASDAQ, and you look at fixed income, and you look at ETFs, and you keep in mind that the New York Yankees is over 120 years, and you tabulate every single sports team, in terms of performance, it has a very unique particularity. In the times of boom, because basically there's basically just boom and bust, and rarely things in between. So in the case of boom, sports assets perform at par with the best things you can invest in, whether it's technology, oil and gas. So it's really at par. In the bust, in the bad times, it performs double the level of every other asset class. The third data set is that when you look at the different industries, money comes in to chase a company that provides revenue. And the company has investors and owners. And when you look at the sports asset class, specifically in the US, it has only about 175 properties. So it's very limited. And in terms of owners, if you take all the family office and the institution that are behind, you basically have somewhere slightly over 2,000 citizens. So we all have gone to school and understand supply and demand. So what it means is that there's a massive opportunity of secondary opportunities, which means that the owners of these assets, which has performed historically better than any other industries, will want at some point to transfer the asset to someone outside the family because of liquidity needs, because of a divorce, because that's also a very good industry. Or for another cause. And because of such things, private markets, which is basically the fastest growing industry in terms of capital, so private equity, hedge fund, and so forth, as all of you may have been aware of, more and more people are preferring to invest privately since there is less and less IPOs. So the confluence of all those 3 points make the leagues extremely attractive for capital chasing. The other segment beyond those 3 data points is that when you look at each of these properties, whether it's NFL base or NBA base or MLS, they fundamentally allow each owners to venture into 5 distinctive business opportunities. One being real estate. When you get a stadium, you basically become the chief commander of revenue. It's like owning a gym with people that may or may not go. The big fans are gonna buy an annual ticket plan. The big corporate will want their ticket booth. So that's fundamentally a B2B. And on the proximity of the stadium, you can have real estate. That's bullet point 1, real estate. Bullet point 2 is that you have a massive opportunity around essentially capturing royalties, because each of these leagues are fundamentally a series of smart lawyers that have forced the entire media industry to give you a tenant payment for 3 to 4 years. So that's effectively a royalty, not in $1,000 or $2,000 tenant in your apartment, but in billions of dollars over 3 to 5 years. So you purchase that right to just get money landing on your hands 3 times a year in a massive format. Segment number 2 is because you're part of those leagues and you command that recurring income, you can, in turn, become a monopoly or duopoly in that geography, in any of those leagues. And by you being such a monopoly, you become the moat for corporate sponsorship, for public events, and even non-sport related events. Third type of business you can get into is anything linked to merchandising or branding. And that goes fully outside your country. I'm from Senegal, and there's an army of kids that have never come to the US, and they have an army of Michael Jordan clothes. They will never meet Michael Jordan, and they don't care. And that is true for soccer. People love Messi. It doesn't matter where he goes, they'll follow him. So, and they'll just follow that jersey. A fourth line of business you can get to is actually education. So for all of us that are involved in academies, an academy is nothing less than a private education business. And for all of us that are parents, we know what it means. It means being a hostage to a situation that you don't control except the invoice of the bill. But if you look at academies, in their revenue per hour, they're vastly more profitable than an actual school. Because you take your kid to school for a full year or 9 months. The academy is just for a season, and the kid only goes 2 or 3 days a week. And that business, if you take a Spanish business or an American business, I can speak specifically in my case. My son is 14 years old. He's a big fan of Barcelona. Since the age of 6 till now, we've lived in Nigeria, in France before, and now in Egypt. And in each of those geographies, money has been going to Spain. So that's how a local business can go global in a perpetual manner.
Absolutely. And the industry of sports, it's not just based on what we were talking before, but every single point, every single business that you can build around. And of course, it's not just based between the international experts between Spain and the US. So I would like to hear from the three of you how this expansion of leagues and sports associations has also reached other countries apart from Spain and the US, specifically in your respective organizations. If you want to.
Yeah, no, thanks, Carla. I'm happy to take that one first. For the NFL, I think it really comes down to 3 or 4 things. 3 things in particular. It's playing our games internationally. It is marketing, and marketing with intention, intentionally marketing certain countries. And then the third one is growing the game, primarily through flag football. So on the game front, we discussed we're playing in Madrid next year. The owner has just recently approved we're going to be playing up to 8 international games next season, right? Which is if you're following NFL football here in the States, that's a pretty big expansion. We played 4 international games last season. This season we're playing 5 international games with the addition of Sao Paulo and Brazil, which was a huge success. And then next year, and then going forward, at least 8 international games a season, which is a tremendous opportunity to keep growing the game internationally. We think when we keep bringing the game, the real game, regular season games, to these fans abroad, there is incredible demand. The tickets sell out within 10 or 15 minutes. Ticketmaster said a couple years ago in our first game in Germany, we could have sold 300,000 tickets to the game at Allianz Stadium in Germany. So we're excited about our international schedule. We're going to be coming to a lot more markets, a lot newer markets starting next season and beyond. The commissioner just recently said maybe we could play up to 16 international games a year, right? So that's really exciting for us. And the second one is marketing. As we started really the international expansion a few years ago, it was difficult when 32 different teams would go to a country like Spain and try to build fandom and try to build allegiance with those fans all at the same time. So we've started being a little bit more intentional and targeted with this. We've sort of divvied up the map among the clubs, and now only 2 or 3 teams have exclusive international home marketing rights in each one of those countries. So in Brazil, it is the Bears and Dolphins, which we're excited about. They're going to have a long-term marketing presence there, building up their fan base in Spain. So we're excited about that. And then the third part is growing the sport. And in most countries, really the trend is flag football, right, which we're really excited about. Flag football is played by 20 million young men and women across the country in 100 different countries. We're in the 2028 Summer Olympic Games in LA, which we're excited about. We hope to keep that going. In fact, American football is the only major U.S. Sport that has never been represented in the Olympics. So we're excited about flag football in the LA 2028 Games, and we continue to look for ways to grow the game. I would mention this past Monday and at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, in between our London games this past weekend and next weekend, we hosted the first European Continental Games, which was a U14 Girls Continental Championship. 5 countries participated, and Spain won. So congratulations to the U14 Girls National Spanish team. We were excited about that.
We keep winning.
Keep winning.
Thank you, Brendon.
Sure. Of course, our focus being the union that represents all the 450 NBA players is really the person, right? The human. And again, the athlete that does these amazing things on the court, and without who there wouldn't be a product, right? That's a big part of it. Of course, we are very grateful to the great work that all the major leagues are doing to evangelize the game, grow the game, monetize the game, because in a revenue share system like it is sports here in the United States, that is also contribute to the wealth of our players. But the other angle, I think, and the other key word is about impact, right? And when the impact work is driven not only by a big, powerful brand like the leagues or the teams are, but also by an individual who goes back to his community and really connects at an even deeper level with whatever are the challenges in that ecosystem. Or the opportunities, right? I think it's when something magical happens. So a big focus for us is actually to empower these young men, because let's not forget, most of them are like in their 20s, to actually figure out what they're passionate about. If I think about Pau, who was recently mentioned here, it took him a long period of time to figure out what his mission was from a philanthropy perspective. And we worked with him, and we have this program in partnership with our foundation that is basically philanthropy coaching. So Pau, at age 32, as accomplished as he was, decided to basically go back to school and with the partnership we have with the Rockefeller Foundation, go through this process and figure out that what he was really passionate about was child obesity. And so it's not only checking a box, but he has identified a challenge back in his own country that he wanted really to support. He partnered with his brother, and he partnered with the other members of his player community to actually make sure that they could address that. I can say that's Pau Gasol, and of course, it's highly connected to to what we are doing here today. But there are almost 30% of our membership that is born outside of the United States, and even more so have a tie, with another country around the world. And so they become not only the business flag barriers for our business, our collective business, but they become also, I think, a phenomenal tool of impact that, again, can be achieved through philanthropy, but it can actually achieve through impact investing, which is something that we are trying to work more and more closely with our players as they also realize, maybe deeper in their career, that the money we were talking about on the panel before, right? There was a question about that. The resources that they have earned, that they put available for their communities, can live through that philanthropy channel, but could actually live also through an actual investment vehicle or an investment project around the notion of impact investing. And that can be localized in different ways, because what is needed in Egypt or in Senegal, even among those two, probably is completely different. What is needed in Spain or what is needed in Brazil or in Australia is completely different. And all these countries and all these communities have their own challenges or their own opportunities. And so our focus is, how do we look at those 120 players that every year are NBA players, and we empower them to go back to their own countries or in the territories where they have ties with. Of course, the continent is a big one. 10% of current NBA players have at least one parent, right, that of African descent. And so how would we empower them to go back and do impactful work that eventually cannot be measured necessarily through a dollar sign, but indirectly actually you can, because we know that impact eventually is going to be delivered in a different way and will result into economic impact. And
thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, I'd like to first thank both the NBA and the NFL, because we would not be active in this space if it was not for the activity they do in Africa. Both institutions or leagues have come very strong. The NFL through OC and the variety of camps that they've been pushing, Nigeria, Ghana, other places. Flag football is already big. There's I think there's probably 7 or 10 teams that OC has launched on the continent. So NBA obviously has come with a bigger set of muscles. They've deployed in the over 100 million probably by now. It's been over 10 years that you guys have been there. The league is going strong. And I'd like to recognize probably 3 members that are here because of you. I think we have Mr. Paxton Baker, Natasha, and Tim. Are you guys here? Can you stand, please? So these are African American owners. I'll start with Paxton, who has owned 3 sports teams here in Washington, D.C., whether it's American football, soccer, rugby, and tennis. He's now an owner of the Cape Town Tigers in South Africa, which is an NBA participating team that when the NBA started. You have Natasha, who's standing right there, who's a coach who was in the NBA Women, that also is an owner in the Cape Town Tigers. And she has also brought a few of her colleagues to become shareholders in the team, just to show you how initiatives that start as discussion around a coffee stool, a PowerPoint, can go very far and really create a lot of employment in the African continent, very specifically because whether you're taking soccer or basketball or many sports, fundamentally the population from that territory play a big role into these games once they export themselves. I know that export is the theme of the panel, but fundamentally, a human capital is really a human capital export when you look at it. And what we're trying to do is to be a more integrative part of the value chain. Because what tends to happen is that the young man leaves the territory, stays overseas, and when it's time to deploy or reinvent himself, it also stays outside the territory. So with this initiative, you basically getting teams, leagues, stadiums, so the economic incidents that can come out of it can create a chapter where there's either retention or return at some point. And obviously, the same way you can get the exchange between the US and Spain happen, we expect the same can start happening between these leagues and the continent itself. So we definitely have very high expectation from it.
Thank you. And indeed, we also have very high expectations with the NFL games in Spain. We've also seen a lot of Spanish, not only athletes, but coaches coming to the US, specifically in soccer, where Spain has been shining lately. And I was wondering, with this exchange of different sports that are moving from the US to Spain and from Spain to the US, in your perspective, what are the future prospects of the relationship between Spain and the US in terms of sports?
No, yeah, Carla, happy to jump on that one too. I think it's the future's bright, right? The future's really bright between the U.S. and Spain. One thing with our international games that Commissioner Goodell has been very proud of is that these aren't just fly-by, one-time, one-off events, right? We don't come in and play a game and leave. We want to come in, establish a presence that's there 365 days a year. That's a long-term presence that is not only helping organize future games in the particular country, but helping to grow the sport, whether it's setting up flag football leagues, whether it's putting in clinics, whether it's helping the teams on marketing, whether it's doing social impact work. We want to make sure we have a long-term presence in all these markets where we're playing. It's not just come in and play a game, and we'll see you in a few years, maybe we'll come back again, but to have a long-term presence there. And with Spain, we're really excited about it. And that starts this year, and it's going to go on, and we are very much looking forward to it.
Thank you.
As a fellow European, I'm from Italy, probably my accent already showed it, but I'm very jealous of what Spanish sport properties have been able to accomplish. I know we have a gentleman representative of Real Madrid Foundation, and if I look at the work that has been done since the 90s by, of course, La Liga and and the big football clubs and the way that they have been able to export themselves and an idea of, again, a sports product, but also a cultural driver, right? I think Spain is probably very, very, if not best positioned to keep this exchange alive with the United States. Because if you want to compete in this market, it's highly competitive. You know, there's a bigger sport in terms of revenue, in terms of fandom with football and college football, obviously, and soon, I guess, even flag football, right? And of course, there's the NBA, the other major sports. And so how do you actually can find your niche in this very competitive space? You really require a lot of expertise. And I think, again, the Spanish sports properties have developed it and have been deploying it in the right way across the US. And let's not forget that this Spanish language, there's a couple of people who speak that language around here, right? And also in the other side of the hemisphere on this continent. So I think that's a competitive advantage that I think sets you guys up for success looking forward.
Absolutely.
I'll just be like the Italian, I'll be jealous. But in all seriousness, we got a chance to be, I think, a year and a half back in Barcelona to attend what's called the Global Sports Summit with Paxson, who's been a long-time member, and invited me to be a member of the governing body. And we can definitely see that this is in a whole new chapter of the relationship. And I think other geographies can only watch how it unfolds and try to borrow a leaf or two over time.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the three of you for being this panel. I would like to open it for questions to the audience. So please, Mandy, if you can get we'll just need one of the mics. Thank you. Please keep your question short and with a question mark at the end, just to make it easy for our panelists. I think we have a question over here with Adam.
Thank you. I'm Adam Powell from the University of Southern California in Los Angeles, home of the 28 Olympics. A related question to Brendon Plack. Which do you think is going to happen sooner? A Madrid NFL team or the Olympics having football as a sport?
You mean flag football or tackle football?
U.S. football.
U.S. football. So that's an excellent question. You know, right now our focus really is, we get the question a lot. Commissioner Goodell gets that question a lot. When is there going to be a European team? You see the Jacksonville Jaguars, for example, playing 2 games back-to-back in London. Never been done before. So there's growing interest among clubs to be playing more games in Europe and Western Europe. But really the focus right now is expanding that international game schedule, right? From 5 games to 8 games next year, possibly even to 16 games, depending what happens with the regular season schedule with the NFL. If we go from 17 games to 18 games in the next CBA, that allows for more inventory to be playing more international games. It could happen. It could happen. I'm not sure what the timeline is on a team being located in a city like Madrid or London, but it's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities over the next few years. You know, we have flag football in the 2028 Olympics in LA. We're pushing really hard to get flag football approved for the 2032 Olympics in Brisbane, which is not a certainty. So we're gonna keep pushing that front. I don't know if American tackle football is going to be in the Olympics at some point. One can only hope, but I would say flag football in the Olympics has definitely got an immediate, more brighter future at this point.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions in the room today?
And I'm going to stand up because I'm a couple rows back. Thank you, guys. There's maybe not a right or wrong answer, but especially as you are looking for all of these sporting events overseas, is the mission more to be engaging the local community to be coming to these games? Are you encouraging Americans to travel to these places to attend the games? As someone who works in the travel space, I'm encouraging my audience to always go and visit, especially around experiences. So I just wanted to know for you guys as your organizations, is the main mission to engaged local community or the bring Americans over, or a mix of both?
Yeah, happy to take that one. As I shared earlier, one of the call to action to our players is travel, and travel with purpose. They already do it, and they travel in very different fashions, right? Sometimes they go and they travel for work. So when we export these games, right, they travel with their own team, they travel under the league brand, and of course it's a very different type of experience than when they travel as individuals and where they can connect at a different level with the local community. So we are really, there's a big conversation around sports tourism. Often the economic impact of that is driven by, or limited, I think in our minds, on the volume of people we are actually able to travel across the world or across geographies. But what we have been experimenting with a very good level of success, and I think our relationship with La Junta de Andalucía is a great example of that, is there a elite sports tourism, I will call it, where very influential people can come and travel to a certain destination, connect at a deeper level, and set a precedent to the eyes of the world, and they leverage their own influence and their own brand equity to actually position that place and that geography and that culture in a completely different way to the eyes of potential customers, and that will travel there in a different way.
I would add to that you're definitely in a position not to worry, because the point of view we take is sports is probably the best alternative to AI. And let me put some detail to it. So in a world where everything you see on your screen, and you can already see how our kids are very prone to screens. We already are a quite cybernetic generation. They're going to be even more glued into their screen. So the analogy I would like you to bear in mind is what we call today organic food. It's nothing more than basic, simple food. But over the last 50 years, we became a species that went gangbusters on refined and processed food. And what did it create? We realized 50, 60 years later that the process, the AI food, is actually bad. And what did we do in return? We started pushing a premium into basic food. So organic today costs a fortune. So to an extent, traveling for sports is going to become something for elite, but for anybody that wants to have a normal moment. Because throughout the day, when you look at your screen, 70 to 80% of what you see, you do not know whether it's Putin or Biden. You just see them, and you're not sure. And that is true in news, it's going to be true in content, in music, in sports, in video games. So the fact of just going physically and watch a normal NFL game live, like live event already is valuable today. But just imagine 5 years, 10 years from now, how much you'll be willing to go all the way to Spain to watch an actual La Liga game versus all this polluted content. So I would say travel, as we know it today, is going to be quite different as an industry in a few years.
Thank you very much. We're sorry we're running a little bit late, so we'd like to close this panel for today, but I would like to thank our speakers again for your words and for being here, and thank you very much for all of you to join us here today. I'll give the floor to Devin so we can move to the next panel. Thank you very much again.